So that brings us to the bulk of what our data center is. In the data center, that's where the information for our payroll, the information for Power School, which holds the student information, the grades. It has our ECATs, that's our behavior reports, that's our reports on EL students and test scores. So really important info. Within this room, we have items like the racks, we have the backup arrays, we have a tape drive, breakers. Again, this is a very loud, complicated room. So things like pushing Power School out is really important. You can see in that first picture, those are empty racks. Previously, those switches, those network switches were filled. They're starting to get rid of the racks. There's a lot less racks in there than previously. They're pushing things out into the cloud. And this is cheaper for them. Now they have, next to the racks behind them, they have a backup array. And the backup array is constantly replicating to the building. It's sending that information to the building across the street. So that is a precaution put in place so that if that information, for whatever reason, is lost on one system, we can access it from another. In that picture where you see a stack of boxes, this is new equipment. This is $500,000 worth of server gear they're waiting to replace, put in, and update. And this equipment is specifically being used to patch and upgrade Oracle. Oracle is our payroll software. Arguably, the most important thing that goes on in that room is making sure that all of the staff get paid in Wake County. There was actually an occurrence in Durham County where their payroll software crashed. And so we are now working diligently to make sure that never happens again. Something to note here, I mentioned Power School. Power School is, again, where we put grades in. It holds attendance. If Power School goes down, typically there is a human at central office that is going to look into, they're going to triage and troubleshoot if they know it's the Power School is obviously an app managed by another vendor. They'll send out a message to us. Something interesting, 20 years ago, that mail service was at central office. So that ability to send mail, if something was wrong with the network, no emails could go through. Now, Office 365, that's a cloud, that's in the cloud. And so if that network goes down, we're still able to get emails letting us know what's going on. So I mentioned before the backup arrays. Those are also sending that information to those tape drives. And these are physical tapes. They have someone come every day, pick up these tapes, and they take them offsite. So if something happened to that room, paychecks can still happen. Crossroads 3, which is across the street from this building, has baby racks constantly replicating. If we lose this rack in this location, in the main location, they can go to other locations. And as a whole, cloud computing, so this means many things. Many applications have moved to the cloud. Power School, like I said, flexible cloud computing infrastructure is actually not used in Wake County currently, but it is one of their priorities. They're trying to reduce the cost of infrastructure support and increase operational performance. So adding in flexible cloud computing is something that they're working towards. As you can imagine, running all of that equipment can get really warm, generating a lot of heat, a lot of power. So in this room, there's a row of servers, or there's a row of air conditioners. There's two 20-ton computer room AC units, and they're the ones that are managing and cooling. If that room gets too low, it can lead to static shocks, which are not good for the sensitive electronics. So temperature control is super important. So everything in the row of servers is facing in. That enables it to pull air from this AC unit. And then on the outside are the hot rows. So you have your cold and hot row. The warmer the system gets, the louder the system is. Obviously, it's trying to push out that cold air. So the large AC system, it's the length of one of the whole walls of the data center, and this forces air down underneath and it blows up, creating that circulation of airflow. Now, in case of fires, if it does overheat, something goes wrong, they use an inert gas system. Water would destroy the equipment. It would break the equipment. We don't want that. So this chemical system, it comes out of a nozzle. If a person were to be in the room when this inert gas system was deployed, they could stay in the room, they could breathe, it wouldn't affect anything. It previously was something called halon, but we learned that that was affecting the ozone, and so we've moved on to this inert gas. So the idea is that this inert gas goes to where the chemical reaction of the actual flame is, and it interacts with it and it snuffs it out. It doesn't affect the electronics at all. To fill up these tanks, it costs about $65,000. So it is emergency use only. So while these fire suppressant agents are generally considered the safest way, they all are bulky. And they take up a lot of space in the working environment. Luckily, at this location, they have plenty of room. But inert gas systems, that's there just in case, and it's a fast-acting clean agent that can help protect in case of fire. So once we moved out of the main data center, we then entered into another room that had the uninterruptible power supply. Now, this is the backup power supply. If there's a cut in that power connection to any of that equipment in the data center, this is the backup temporarily. It is capable of handling the data center for at least 45 minutes, and this is in the backup of the generator, which I'll talk about next. So in this room, there were 7 large cabinets, and within those cabinets that were filled with batteries. And think about it as your laptop. When you have your laptop, it's plugged in. It works. If you unplug it, it's still going to work for some amount of time. So that battery pack in your computer that allows your computer to stay on without being plugged into the wall is your uninterruptible power supply. So in these 50-pound batteries, they are working, and they're as a precautionary in case there is a disconnection of power to the data center. At this point, the main power from Duke Power comes in. It goes into the transfer switch that is watching what is going on in that room. If it sees a failure, then it sends a message to the generator, which is located outside, which I'm going to talk about now. So they have a very large generator. It's a 17,000 gallon diesel fuel run generator. The UPS that I previously stated only needs to handle 45 minutes because that would be about the amount of time it would take to refuel the generator. Now the generator, if something were to occur like a hurricane, it's almost out of diesel, they would shut it down, and then the load would go to the UPS, and it would be enough time to get the generator filled with diesel. There are 2 breakers that come out of the UPS with big cables that transfer that switch box outside and runs to the outside generator so that they're constantly talking to one another. On location, there is a secondary generator. It's owned by the landlord of the building that runs elevators, door locks, and such. So that is separate. This is specifically for the data center and those important pieces of equipment. So that was the end of our tour. And as an overview, at a school setting, they pretty much would have the same thing, just scaled down. So you have the wireless access point that goes to that closet. That closet goes to a main closet, typically where the fire alarm control panel is. It's normally labeled FACP. And then from there, it connects to a circuit on Spectrum that connects to downtown or that central office location. And then after we reach the data center, that connects anywhere else that it would need to go. And lastly, I wanted to highlight some of the bigger terms that I gained a lot of knowledge on as I was doing this tour and as I was doing this presentation. And one that I often steer away from is cloud. And so I think I want to highlight that one in particular out of these 4 terms. So as a reminder, the cloud is a term used to describe a global network of servers. And it is specific to its own function. So the cloud is not a physical entity, not like the racks, but instead it's a vast network of remote services around the globe that are hooked together, and they're meant to operate as a single ecosystem. And that's the reason why they can get rid of racks and they can send stuff out into the cloud, and is saving them money in the long run. Here you can find a graph. This was sent to me by Mr. Ramsey that shows the breakdown of their staffing for Wake County in this specific department. And there you can see his other colleagues for senior directors in different areas of IT. And then last are my resources. So the photos that you saw were primarily taken from that data center in Wake County. I did get permission from the director to include those pictures. The information that was provided was gathered through my conversation with Mr. Ramsey. I transcribed our video, so I do have a copy of the transcription. And then I also utilized NAI Group and TechTarget just to clarify some terms as I was writing the presentation. Thank you.